Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and staying healthy. I am back in the United States and at home. So at this time, of course, things are a little bit hectic coming back home. Um, so excuse me for not responding to some of your messages quickly, or if I've been a little bit short in responding to messages or not responding to your messages. I would like you to remember that, of course, I am still assuming responsibility of being your professor, but being back home, especially in the first week or two, like I already said, I'm not going to be able to respond to your every little request and need. So you will need to seek support from your fellow classmates or ask a friend if you're having technical issues. Most of you have been doing that and figuring that out, so great for you. If you are still struggling with Moodle, you need to figure that out. And if you're still struggling with playing or downloading these lessons, you got to figure that out. Um, if you have a question about the lessons, then of course, you can post your comment or your question on the post of the lessons. So I do apologize for this being a little bit late. So you will have 2 or 3 PowerPoint slides for this week. And in the next slide, I will explain some administrative updates as I usually do. So let's continue. Okay, let's go ahead and quickly go over some administrative announcements. Why we will not have Zoom sessions, quite simply, it's because there are too many of you. With 101 students and 30 plus students in each section, Zoom is just not compatible, I believe, for this type of class. Even if I muted all of you, I don't think that really is a good class. So sorry, only one of my class sections gets to have Zoom sessions. You guys will have to just follow along with these PowerPoint lessons. And if you need maybe some YouTube videos or something like that, I can see about it. For right now, you're just going to have to follow along this way. Course restructuring for exams. Please pay close attention. Basically, you've already done an exam. You've done the first exam. I'm going to change the structure of the course, and the other professor is supposed to do the same. So instead of having first, second, and a final, we're going to have a midterm and a final. So that means that your first exam, which is about the cause and effect, will now be the midterm. That means the weighting of this exam will no longer be 15, it will be about roughly 30%. The reason for doing this is because I think that's pretty obvious. The structure of everything right now is kind of up in the air. So after talking to the chair, Dr. Sophian, we all will probably model the same structure of midterm final. Now, if you're wondering, if you did poorly on your exam, which you don't have those grades yet, but those will be submitted to you or to everyone soon, so don't worry about that. Um, the thing about that is that your grade might go down because now you don't have another exam. I completely understand that. So if I find that everyone's grades are going down, what I'll do is I'll figure something out to help boost your grades back up. And this is only for this situation. Otherwise, I would not provide extra credit just to boost your grades because they're low. I don't do that. Okay, so next, what to expect regarding submitted assignments. So you've already submitted the second draft of your process analysis essay. You are not getting a grade on that, and I've already made that clear. So what will happen is I will give you general feedback because that's 101 of essays that I need to read and respond to. So I'm just going to give you that general feedback because you should have revised your essays so well that I should just have to look at the structure. Now, if you did not do what you were supposed to do, I'm going to let you know that. And you have another chance to correct it. All right? And that'll be your final draft. So if you don't make those corrections again, well, then that's going to be your grade at the end of the semester. Okay? Upcoming assignments. So in this order, you will have a few assignments. Okay, so the first assignment will be on cause and effect. Obviously, I cannot return your exams back to you. So what this means is that it's not fair for me to ask you to write the essay on a topic that you've already done a draft that I cannot return to you. So to make all of our lives easier, I will assign you a simple outline on a couple of topics. Okay? I will probably repeat some of your exam topics to make it simple. You will only have to write an outline. I'm not asking you to write a whole cause and effect essay. So the outline will tell me if you understand the 5-paragraph structure, and also do you understand the purpose and the structure of cause and effect essays. Okay, and that'll be something quick for me to grade and also to check your understanding, and also something quick for you. The next assignment will be for you to revise your second draft, okay, for your process analysis essay. So you have yet another chance to revise. And then you will submit that final draft through Moodle and only through Moodle, okay? The next assignment will be your final exam. And that final exam will be an argumentative essay. I will allow you several days up to a week to prepare your essay and then to submit it. For that, there will be no drafts because it's an exam. So you have to really get everything done well before. For the portfolio, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take your take your process analysis essay and your argumentative essay and count that as your portfolio. Your argumentative essay is also your exam. So that can help your grades go up because obviously of what I announced earlier about midterm final. Really quickly, let me make a note about how to submit your work. You may only submit through Moodle. This has nothing to do with Google Drive. That project right now, I have not given you any updates. I've only talked about the exams and cause and effect. I'm not even sure if we're going to finish the Dare to Dream project. So at this time, I'm not saying to delete your Google Drive account. No. I'm just saying just wait right now. You're not submitting anything on Google Drive, only through Moodle, and it has to be through Moodle, not by email. So all future assignments have to be submitted on Moodle because you are submitting it through turnitin.com through Moodle. Turnitin.com tells me if you copied and pasted, if you cheated. It checks against the internet and it checks against your classmates' essays. So I know that you did not cheat. So if you're thinking, oh, let me just make up some excuse and say that I have technical issues, which some of you might. I mean, some of you might have problems. And let me just try to email it to her. No, absolutely not. I will extend the submission deadline. If you are late in submitting your work, you will be marked late and you will lose points. However, it has to be done through Moodle. Do not contact me to say that, oh, I had to email you. Don't do it. For future assignments, do not submit anything through email. You need to submit it through Moodle, like I've asked you to do. If you're still having problems with Moodle, you're going to have to figure that out. Ask a classmate. Okay, so enough of this. Let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go to Unit 3 in your textbooks. We're going to talk about cause and effect essays this week. We're on page 59. All right, so I will virtually see you, on the next slide. Before we start in your book, let's talk about what is a cause and what is an effect. So first of all, a cause is the reason why something happens. So something, a very vague term, when we're talking about something, we're talking about maybe the reason why an action happens, or the reason why a situation happens, or behavior happens, or an event happens. Okay? It's the reason why. It's the root. of everything. So what is the cause of something? Versus an effect, not to be confused with affect, A-F-F-E-C-T, that is the verb. Effect is the outcome of the cause. Okay, it's the consequence of the cause. It's the result of the cause. So it's very important to understand the difference between cause and effect. As I've seen in many of your essays, there's some confusion as to what is a cause and what is effect. Some people listed the effects as the cause because you're thinking that the effects are the reasons. No, the reason is the cause. The effect is the aftermath. So let's look at the topic generally of pollution. Okay? Just pollution. It could be air pollution, water pollution, whatever. Pollution. Okay? Very general. So in my essay, I would have to talk about the cause of pollution. Okay? At least one of my paragraphs has to be dedicated to talking about cause. And in this type of essay, I would recommend cause be mentioned first. Should be the first body paragraph. So I'm going to tell my reader what is the reason for pollution? What causes pollution in general? Now, in my next body paragraphs, whether it's 2 or 3, depending on, of course, level, for us it would be 2, I'm going to talk about the consequences, the outcomes, the results, the effects of pollution. So one body paragraph is dedicated to talking about the reason for pollution. The other 2 body paragraphs dedicated to talking about the effects of pollution. And that's a very general task. Let's take an example of one of the topics I gave you in the exam. Discuss the effects of poverty on an individual. Okay, on an individual. So that means I want you to focus on the person. But anyway, that's not super important. What's important is discuss the effects of poverty. Okay, so I've asked you to discuss the effects. That does not mean that you can't talk about the cause, though. You have to, because it's a cause and effect essay. So some of you confused that with, oh, I should talk about all of the effects, and I should put all of the effects as my how in the thesis. Uh-oh, that means you didn't review what a cause and effect essay is, because I specifically told you before the exam to review it in the book, and I also wrote it for you on the exam. You have to talk about both. So let's say you decided to write about B on this version, discuss the effects of poverty, on an individual. You would have talked about the cause in the first body paragraph. So what is the cause in this case? What causes poverty? That's the question that you're answering in your first body paragraph. What causes poverty in general? Okay? I asked a very general question so that you can take it however you want to. So poverty, what causes poverty? And because it's such a general topic, you have to respond generally. Okay? In this case, you really do have to talk about different causes or reasons of poverty. Or you can just focus on one main cause of poverty, because you would have done that in your thesis. In your thesis, you could have focused on one cause of poverty. Okay? And in your thesis as well, you could have focused on 2 effects. Okay? So now that you've covered your paragraph about cause, the other 2 body paragraphs have to be about effects. You can't keep talking about the reasons for poverty. That's not the type of essay that we're doing. So you're done with cause in the first body paragraph. Body paragraph 2 is an effect, an outcome, a consequence of poverty on an individual. Body paragraph 3 is another effect of poverty on an individual. Okay, so your thesis must also reflect that, and we'll get into that a little bit more um, later on. Most of you understand how to write a thesis, but for cause and effect, we will look at that a little bit later. Now, why do we need to write these types of essays? Well, it's quite simple. We write these types of essays so that we can explain why certain actions, situations, and behaviors happen, just like it's stated also in your book. We want to see the outcome of something. And when I say see, I don't mean actually see it happen. It's explained, of course, through an essay. For example, let's go back to pollution. Let's say I am an environmentalist. I'm an environmental scientist, and I'm writing to my government to try to convince them that we need to really take climate change seriously, and pollution is the central cause. Okay, so that's my topic right there. Okay, so we need to take climate change seriously. Okay, why? What's the reason? Well, the reason is pollution. Okay, so in my essay, I'm going to talk about pollution and why is it a major cause of climate change. And then I'm going to talk about its effects. Now, of course, if I'm writing to legislation, I'm probably going to write more than 3 body paragraphs, right? So I'm probably going to talk about a couple of different effects, meaning I have a couple of different body paragraphs, and that's perfectly fine. But it's still the main point. I'm going to talk about the effects on society and governments and economy and all these different aspects. I'm going to talk about those effects clearly in my body paragraphs. Okay? And I'm not talking about a persuasive essay. And some of you also confuse this with persuasive. This is not a persuasive essay, so to speak. I'm providing you with the facts, okay? And in an actual cause and effect essay, you would want to have done research and put in this research into your essay, okay? Because you want to prove your point. That's all essays. We're trying to prove something, but I'm not necessarily using words like should and could. I'm not using persuasive techniques in this. I'm just giving you the facts. A cause and effect essay is about facts. It's very objective. Okay? So that's an example of how to use a cause and effect essay in the real world. I want you to clearly understand what's the reason behind this event, this action, this behavior, this situation, and what are its effects. I want you to understand the consequences, the outcomes, the results, so that we can make an educated decision based on what effects you're highlighting. So it's very important to know how to write a cause and effect essay. Okay, let's continue. I would like for you to skip to page 65 in your textbook and look at the rhetorical focus. So, as I've already mentioned, the cause and effect essay explains why certain actions, situations, and behaviors happen or behaviors happen. I actually did paraphrase this paragraph for you on your exam, so it should look familiar. The essay can start with an effect, such as success, and it can find its causes, which might be education or talent. Or the essay can begin with a cause and describe its effects. So I'd like to bring up your exams. So a lot of you on your exams did not get the structure right. Either you did not review it before the exam, or you did not read the cause and effect essay excerpt that I gave you on the exam. I'm not sure. You really did not understand what's going on, but it's quite simple. Just like we talked about for compare and contrast, you have to mention both. So you have to mention the cause and you have to mention the effect um, in whatever capacity. However, in the book, it's telling you that you can either start with a cause or you can either start with an effect. For you at your level, you are given the topics. So you don't really have the choice. You have to read the topic and you have to follow that topic. You're not writing for fun. So you have to follow the topic. So, for example, one of the topics I gave you on your exam was discuss the effects of discrimination, and I said any type. Now, for this topic, if you decided to talk about discrimination in general, which is why I said any type, I was trying to tell you you have to decide because what did I tell you before? If you try to talk about things too generally, you might as well sit there and write a book. Discrimination. There are types of discrimination. Which one do you want to focus on? So in your thesis, you should have focused on a type of discrimination. So first you would have to decide on the type of discrimination. But in any case, I've asked you to discuss the effects. So that means I expect you to focus on the effects. That does not mean that you don't write about the cause. You have to. So for example, well, not really for example, but you should, write your first body paragraph as your cause. You have to discuss the cause of this type of this type of discrimination. You can see it on your screen. So let's say you decided to write about gender discrimination or racial discrimination, whatever the type you chose. Okay, then the next body paragraphs have to be the effects. So the majority of your body paragraphs is going to be about the effects. And that's what I or any professor or anything means by discuss the effects. That means the majority of your body paragraphs need to be about the effects. You only need one paragraph about cause, and the rest of them should be about effects. And I say the rest because in this case, you're writing only 3 body paragraphs. So 1 cause and 2 effects, for example. Okay. Someone else more advanced, they might write maybe 3 or 4 effects. Okay. Now, let's say we flip it and we talk about causes. Okay. If I asked you to discuss the causes of discrimination, then you would have to talk mostly about causes. Okay. Now, the cause is the reason, the effect is the result. So it still makes sense to talk about the cause or causes first, but you can talk about the effect first. It just depends. It really depends on your topic. Okay? So if you want to, you could talk about the effect in your first body paragraph of gender discrimination. And then in the other 2 body paragraphs, you can talk about the causes. But it's really simple. That's all you're doing. It's just the order that you write the paragraphs. It's the order and what content you put in your paragraphs. You just have to remember you have to write a cause and effect. Now, before we go into thesis, let's look again on page 65. The introduction, the body paragraphs, and conclusion, generally they're all the same for all essays. There are a few differences that you have to, of course, note. Now, the introduction says the hook introduces the cause or causes or effect or effects. So just like with any hook, it's supposed to kind of give me an idea of what the topic of the essay will be about and catch my attention. Okay, in this case, I need to know what is the cause or effect that you're going to focus on. Then we have background information always. So especially if you're writing about these general topics, you're going to want to give the reader some kind of background to hold on to. The reader may not understand the topic you're talking about. Well, I shouldn't say talking, that you're writing about. So you really want to be clear um, about what it is you are talking about. So you can give some background on the cause or the effect. Okay. And you can also give historical information. It just depends on your topic. So then we have the background information, and then we have the thesis. Okay. Thesis. Very important. In your thesis, just like with any essay, it's extremely important. And it has to guide the entire essay. So you have to mention your cause and effects in your thesis. You have to. So in your situation, you have 3 body paragraphs. Okay. So in this case, for this topic, you have to mention your cause and the 2 effects. Or you can be general and say that you're going to talk about these effects. Okay. So I've given you 2 options here. Okay. But some of you, what you did on your exam, in your thesis, you wrote 3 effects as your how, or you wrote 3 causes as your how. You can't do that because you only have 3 body paragraphs. So if you dedicate all of them to causes or all of them to effects, your whole essay is wrong. Okay, so let's look at this example here. So I chose gender discrimination because someone did talk about this topic on the exam. So gender discrimination occurs because of traditional roles in the home. That's my cause. So gender discrimination, I made it specific, not just discrimination, occurs. I could have said, you could have used different verbs, but I chose occurs. It happens, right? Because of. So I'm giving you the reason, at least in my opinion, okay, based on my research, so to speak. The cause is because of traditional gender roles in the home. Okay, when we talk about gender roles, that means, for example, the woman is the domestic. She cooks and cleans and takes care of the children. And then the man goes to work and provides for the family and goes into public spaces. Okay. And then here we have the effects, and it negatively affects women. So we can stop there, okay, as the reason, excuse me, as the reason is there, and with the effects, we can stop there and just say it negatively affects women. And then I expect in your essay for you to give me at least 2 effects, negative effects, because you said negatively. Of course, in my opinion, I always think that, yeah, you should give the how. In this case, you notice that you're not giving me 3 effects because you can't. Okay, you only have 3 body paragraphs. So there's only 2 effects because you're only going to write 2 body paragraphs about effects. So here I said such as wages slash salaries. That's 1 effect. Okay, and treatment in the workplace. That's effect 2. Okay, so 1 body paragraph will be about wages and salaries, the negative effect, and then another body paragraph will be about the treatment in the workplace, and that is the second negative effect. I don't have to repeat that, let's say, such as low wages or um, unfair wages or poor treatment in the workplace. I've already said negatively, so I don't need to repeat that. Okay. Anyway, that's an example of a cause and effect thesis. Okay, so if you were a little confused before, now you should understand it better and can mimic that on your outline assignment later on. Now we have the body paragraphs, and I think I've gone over this in detail already. Of course, the topic sentence has to support your thesis. The supporting details must relate to the topic sentence, and your body paragraph. Oh my goodness, sorry. Body paragraphs are organized in order of importance. As always, always you have to have it ordered logically. Okay, whether it's chronologically or sequentially or um, short term, long term, by priority, whatever. Okay, and each paragraph must use clear logic. And I've already told you, depending on your topic, your body paragraphs have to talk about cause and effect. Then your conclusion, the first sentence, of course, restates the cause and effect of the essay. So your thesis, still your thesis. If you did your thesis correctly, you're just paraphrasing your thesis. Do not let the book confuse you. You can evaluate or reflect on the ideas presented. So some of you treated this assignment as if it was a persuasive essay, and it's not persuasive, okay? This is objective. So nowhere should you be talking about what you think should happen in your body paragraphs. Of course, you don't use first person even in the conclusion, but save that for the conclusion. So if you want to give your opinion, reflecting on everything or evaluating it, then save that for the conclusion. Don't mention anything according to your opinion in the body paragraphs. You can do that in the conclusion. You can also give advice in this part, okay? So once you start putting language like should in your body paragraphs, okay, like the government should make laws to protect women. Now you've gone to a persuasive essay, and you've completely messed up your cause and effect essay. Okay, save that kind of language for your conclusion. Okay, so that should be pretty clear. So how is a cause and effect essay different from a process analysis essay? Remember that a process analysis essay describes a process, so an order of events, in a logical order. That order can be sequential, it could be chronological, it could be according to importance or priority. It's focusing on the process itself. So a recipe, how to install something, how to use a computer, um, how and why that this festival is celebrated or this holiday is celebrated. Okay, that is process. Cause and effect is focusing on the reason something happens. Okay, and that something is behavior or an action or situation, so on and so forth. And focusing on the consequences of that cause, the outcome of that cause, the result of that cause. So let me give you an example of let's see, a different topic. Discuss the downside of smartphones. So a lot of you chose that topic. And I put right there negative aspects or negative effects, same difference in this case. The negative effects of smartphones. Okay, so I'm not going to write an essay about how to use a smartphone if I'm asked to write a cause and effect essay, which I've done. I asked you to discuss the downside of smartphones. I'm not going to write a process analysis essay about how to use a smartphone or how to, not use a smartphone. I'm not talking about that. I'm asking you to discuss the negative effects of smartphones. Okay? That's what I've asked you to do because I want the audience to focus on those negative effects. For whatever reason I'm writing this essay, I want the audience to really see the results of the cause. Okay? For example, when scolding a child, right? You say don't put your hand on the gas burner. That should be obvious, right? But a child is ignorant. He or she does not know why. Okay. Well, so you need to explain to the child, the cause and effects. So putting your hand on the fire will cause these effects or have these effects occur. Okay. And this is the reason why, you know, um, you cannot do this. So focusing on the effects. okay, the outcomes, or as we like to say, especially when talking about scolding children, the consequences of the action. The action in this case is the cause. If you put your hand on the gas burner, what are the effects? It will burn your hand and you will no longer be able to use your hand. Okay? Cause and effect. All right, so hopefully that is clear. So let us continue. All right, so if you will, please go back to page 60. So go back in your textbook and go to page 60 and follow along. So as you'll see on page 60, we are talking about cause and effect. We're going to focus on the topic of happiness. So many people travel great distances to find happiness. Others find happiness in the world around them. In this unit, you will explore the causes of happiness. So when we say causes, we're talking about the reasons why people are or become happy. We are not talking in this case about the effects right now. We're talking about what makes people happy, the causes of happiness. So a lot of people and researchers also describe happiness as a state of mind. You can be happy 1 minute and you can be unhappy the next. And when we talk about that in terms of life, if someone asks, are you happy? Well, it's a state, okay? State of mind. You might be happy this year and you might not be happy next year. Or there's some people who can always be happy, no matter what happens. So that's what this means. Some people travel great distances to find happiness because they think that they have to find happiness. Okay, they're like, for example, um, material things like clothing and makeup and books and cars, like all these things, you know, some people think will make them happy. Okay, when they find out, probably not. And then those who find happiness in the world around them, meaning that they are happy and they're grateful for what they have. Instead of trying to find something to make them happy, they appreciate what they already have and are content with it. Okay? So now let's look at the picture. We have two dogs here. And it says, I've got the bowl, the bone, the big yard. I know I should be happy. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. I know I should be happy. What does that imply? So if you go down to exercise 1, you can discuss it with with yourself, or you can call up a friend later and discuss it if you'd like. So what do the bowl, the bone, and the yard represent to the dogs in the cartoon? Think about that for a minute. Okay. What is the message of the cartoon? Think about that. How do you feel about the issues raised by the cartoon? Think about that. And when I say think about that, you can also pause the video. Anyway, going back to the first one, what do the bowl, the bone, and the yard represent? Well, you can interpret it however you want to, but pretty much the dog is saying that it has food and shelter and a means to provide for itself. So let's relate this back to humans: a house, a job, you know, money and food. I have the basic needs um, in order to survive. Okay, so realistically, I should be happy, right? But in this case, going on to the second bullet point, what is the message of the cartoon? Doesn't seem like the dog is happy, right? So the dog is not really happy. Okay, so why is that? How do you feel about the issues raised by the cartoon? Well, this is something that, of course, you would write about later on. But this is a topic that is actually quite complex. People who have everything that they need still can be unhappy because those people are searching for happiness maybe in the wrong place. Maybe you yourself, are also struggling with this issue of being happy, okay? Or you have come to the point in realizing that happiness is simply a state of mind, and instead of trying to find it, be content with, what you have, and realize, how grateful you should be for what you already have, especially if you have all of your needs provided. Some people would say I'm pessimistic for saying this, but it could be worse. Okay, it could be worse. So some people think that's pessimistic when, in my opinion, I think it's optimistic. Things could always be worse, so be grateful for what you have and or what you're experiencing, at the moment, because things could always be worse. Um, that's my opinion. So anyway, so hopefully you've taken the time to think about the topic of happiness. Now, I'm not going to go through every single thing with you. In the first part of the unit, it has you doing some comprehension. And I highly suggest completing the exercise. So exercise 2 asks you to read about the topic, and that is on page 61. We have an essay called What Makes People Happy? Young Filmmaker Finds the Answer. Okay, so the title is already interesting. Hopefully you can see this in your book. I know some of you have some issues with the shading. If you can't, that's still not an excuse, because on the Facebook group, if you will look under units and you will look in the first part that has resources, you have the electronic copy of your book. So just open up that file and go to page 61. Okay, so no excuses there. Read this essay, and then you should answer the comprehension exercises 3 and 4 on pages 61 through 62 on your own. Okay, so exercise 3 is basically true and false. It's very easy. Did you understand the text? And then also responding to the text with some questions for exercise 4. Okay, to see again, did you understand the text? So please do that. Just because I'm not hovering over you doesn't mean that you should, be lazy. Do it. All right, now, if you have questions, you can post them as a comment on the Facebook post for this lesson. Okay, do not message me directly with comments or questions. I have responded to a few of them, but again, it gets a little bit crazy. Also, your question may be someone else's question, or you might help somebody else. So I'm not doing this to be mean. I just want you to post it publicly so that other people who may be too shy or maybe don't realize that they had that question, it'll help those other students. So be responsible and ask your question on the Facebook post. All right, we will continue in just a moment on the next slide. You may have been wondering, why is Miss Natalie going on and on about happiness? Why is she talking about all this? Despite what's in the book, it's because I actually want you to do this free writing assignment. Okay, go to page 63 so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so on page 63, exercise 5 talks about free writing. Now, I have not made the decision quite yet if this will be the draft of your future assignment. Okay, I have not made the decision yet. I might include this as one of the topics, but I'm going to give several topics. And the reason why is because if I give you all the same topic, all of you will write pretty much very similar responses to that topic. Okay, so this could be one of the topics. So I do expect you to do it, and I do expect you to keep it in your notes. What I do not expect you to do is to send it to me in any form by email or Facebook Messenger or Moodle or Google Drive. Do not send it to me. And please do not ask me about how to submit it because you are not turning this in. Okay, this is not your cause and effect outline assignment. This is not it. Okay, this is for you to practice. So on page 63, it says, write for 10 to 15 minutes on the topic below. Express yourself as well as you can. Do not worry about mistakes. Okay? So free writing it's not about your format, it's not about your spelling, it's not about your grammar, it's just writing. I want you to sit there and write in English about this topic. Do not worry about anything else except for writing. Let your mind be free and just write. Have a cup of coffee, have some tea, whatever relaxes you, and just write. Pretend like you're writing in your diary. So again, the topic is about happiness. People find happiness in different ways. How do you find happiness? So this is like a journal. It's talking about you. So can you use first person? Of course you can. Okay? How do you find happiness? Okay, and some of the questions that you should answer. What are some of the physical, emotional, and psychological things in life that make you happy? Okay? How do you express your happiness? And how does it affect people around you? So I don't really care about the length really, as long as you sit there and write for like at least 10 to 15 minutes, that's fine. The length that you would probably have is if you write consecutively, which means you don't stop. That's the point of free writing. You keep writing. You might have 2 or 3, let's just say 2 to 4 notebook pages, depending on how big your notebook is, of course, but 2 to 4 notebook pages you should have by the end of this. Okay, so I'd like you to complete that. Now, if you have some questions regarding this assignment, or you really, don't understand the question or something to that effect, then okay, you can take a picture of it and send it to me if you want to, or ask the question on the Facebook post. That's fine with me. This is a very simple assignment, so I don't think you need to stress about it. And again, you're not submitting it. But if you don't understand the question and maybe your other classmates don't respond to you or they don't understand the question, then okay, let me know. All right, so that is the end of part 1 for unit 3. So what you should expect, later on is for us to look at some more examples of cause and effect essays. Okay, we're going to look at some more examples. And then we're going to start developing your own ideas for an outline. Okay, we're going to start focusing on your ideas for an outline for your next assignment. So we'll study cause and effect in a little bit more detail. Okay, and then we'll work on some outlines, and then we'll also work on some language focus towards the end of the unit. So more grammar, more language towards the end. Okay, not to say that you're editing anything, but just so that you know later on when you write cause and effect, what grammar to look out for. All right, so I hope you all are again staying healthy and well, and I will virtually see you in the next lesson. Take care of yourself.